Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Truth Will Set You Free show. This show is brought to you by TLBTV and the Liberty Beacon Project. I'm your host, Linda Diane Wattley, and yes, I am excited about my guest today. As a matter of fact, this is going to be an experience where I'm going to school because my guest, Sean Worthington, is so knowledge and wisdom, abilities, that I just can't wait for him to give me understanding of so many things. I feel like I have a child understanding, and I want that whole thing about what he is about. How you doing, Sean?
I'm doing very good. Thank you very much for the kind words.
The truth. I mean, really though, you got to tell me, somewhere early in life you was able to start a fire without matches?
Yeah, that is right. I lived in a house without electricity for a long time, and my job was to start the fire every morning. And I did go on to compete when I was about 16 for a contest. It was kind of like a survivor contest. And I was the only one that was able to start fire without matches. And I won that contest and got to go on a scientific expedition to Australia.
Wow. And you got to tell me also, I am doing your bio. You got to tell me how you was able to program Atari. I mean, you was just a kid.
Yeah, I actually learned how to program before I had a computer, because I had the book from the library and I studied it, learned it. And so as soon as I got the computer, I was able to already program it.
I have to let everybody know another reason why I'm excited. He is a veteran of the U.S. Air Force. Now, you heard what I said about the fire and Atari. Now, here he is, 18 years old, working on airframe and power plant mechanic for airplane.
That's right. For the it's called a KC-135, the Strato tanker. It's a big giant aircraft that refuels fighter planes. That's what my specialty was.
I mean, he was just 18 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to tell me, as a little boy, did you know what you wanted to be when you grew up?
I wanted to actually be a computer programmer, so it worked out okay. I didn't actually know that I started teaching, and I just loved teaching. And so I got into that, but I was teaching computer science.
Well, I just love it when somebody can do something I can't do. I can't touch what you can do, but I love it. And it's so pure, and you have a passion for it. Not only that, it's like you really want people to understand so many things, because as we go into what you're about, they're going to see that you're aware that something is coming against this world, not just this country, but against this world, and what you have to give. See, I do have enough sense to realize you're trying to save us.
That's right.
I know you are. See, I got enough sense to see that, though. I may not get all that other stuff, but I know you have a heart to try to save humanity. I mean, it's just phenomenal. He is a known computer scientist. He has had over 30 certifications with Microsoft. And I mean, his education is endless. He have done so much research and commitment. He has taught computer science, and I mean, just the whole dynamic of it. He had studied so much that he came to realize that money was data. I mean, wow, you went so far that you concluded that money was data, and that the most priceless jewel we'll have in this transition that's coming in our life is our mind. I mean, how did you come to realize that money was data?
Well, I was asking the question, what is money? And Plato had something called the ideas of essences and forms. And I was trying to figure out, what is the essence of money? What is the thing that makes money money? And what can you get rid of and then it's not money anymore? And I was studying different monetary systems, including the island of Yap money. And they have these big giant stones, and they roll them around from platform to platform in their village square. and every platform represents a different family. And so you can go to their village square and you can look at
You mean now?
Yes, they still use it today, but
Wow.
this system was created hundreds and hundreds of years ago. Europeans were able to, it was like the last island, the island of Yap was the last island that Europeans discovered. And they went to the village square and they could see how much money everybody had by just looking at their raised platform. You could see which people were broke and which people were rich. And they had basically a public ledger system. And I realized that they had created a database in stone. Every platform was like a row of a table. And instead of having numbers, because they didn't have numbers or writing, they would have these stones which represented the values. That was the data. And it was a database physically. And then I realized that this whole thing's an information system. Monetary systems are information systems. They're designed to track how much value we put into the economy so that we can get the same value out. They're designed to keep us from stealing from each other. And then once you realize that money is data, you can start applying all the rules of computer science that we apply to databases, and we can just apply those to monetary systems, and that's what I did.
So, like, I was just so intrigued with how you decided that you pretty much was going to create your own money.
Yes. And so I had these radical ideas, and the first thing I went to is the economist, and I said, "Hey, have you ever heard of this idea before?" And went to people who had PhDs in economics, and they had not heard of it before. And so I was sitting down writing a paper and going to publish it in some literature. And then I just thought, why don't just test the theory? Why don't just create some money and see if it works? Because that's the ultimate test. The proof is in the pudding. And if I write some paper, well, people will just say, oh, they could just blow it off and say that it's not true or whatever. But by actually creating a system, that is the way to prove it.
Wow. So what drives you to go into what you call CloudCoins?
Well, there's a lot of things that drive me, but one of the biggest things is that we can all be much more prosperous and free if we have a good monetary system. I don't think that anybody understands until I started, thinking about it. I started realizing that our monetary systems is far from perfect. And in fact, it allows the rich to get richer and it really hurts poor folks. And it's in a lot of the things that we blame, like we might say, oh, capitalism is all wrong, but really it's the monetary system that's all wrong. And I'm not blaming anybody and saying it, but it's an information system and it can be hacked, and it is hacked. Our system is better than other people's systems. I mean, the monetary system of Venezuela, it's just there so that the government can steal from it. And all that inflation is just the government printing up things, basically taking money from their people. That defeats the whole purpose. We have to use money to economize, to make decisions about where we should work and stuff. And so if you throw in a bunch of money from the government that's coming out of the government, that's going to mess up everything and mess up the economy and mess up people's decisions. So I just felt like this is a way to improve everybody's life and really make everybody more prosperous.
So how do CloudCoin find its way in the midst of the money system that exists today?
Well, it's got to compete. And so people have to be able to choose or want to choose CloudCoin over other things. They can use the Federal Reserve note, or if they, in Russia, they prefer to use the Federal Reserve note over their own rubles. They have a lot of dollars hidden underneath their mattresses and things. And so people do have a choice, and a lot of people are choosing Bitcoin, but there's a lot of constraints with the digital currencies that are out there, the cryptocurrencies. And those constraints have to do with how many people can use them at one time, how fast the transactions take, how easy it is to get them stolen or lost. And so I think that CloudCoin is a currency that doesn't have those constraints. And so once we finish our next phase, which I hopefully we'll finish that next month, then we can start telling everybody, we're going to start marketing it. And I think it's really going to take off. We'll see.
But you also wrote a book about It was called Beyond Bitcoin, the Future of Digital Currency.
That's right.
You also mentioned that they lost a lot of coins. How do you lose coins?
Well, with Bitcoin, you've got this private key, and so you've got this. You've got to have an account on a public ledger, which is just basically a table. It's got your name, except for instead of a name, it's got your number, and it's got how much Bitcoins you have. And in order to talk to that database, you have to have a private key and a public key. This is encryption stuff. And the person that you are going to send the money to, they have to have a private key and public key too. But the problem is that this private key is like a golden egg. And if you lose it, you lose access to your money and you lose all your money. And so you've got to make sure you don't lose that private key. But if you make copies of the private key and store it in backups or on hard drives or whatever, now you're increasing your likelihood of it getting stolen. And so now a hacker has more of a chance of stealing it. And if the hacker steals it, you also lose all your money. And so you've got a lot of what's called systemic risk, where with this private key, with CloudCoin, we don't have user accounts. You don't have to log in. You don't have public keys or private keys. Instead, the money itself has accounts. And so this allows us to trade it without logging in or signing up. It allows us to put the coins in different locations. So if one location gets hacked, we don't lose everything. And we can really then get rid of systemic risk. And we also get 100% privacy. There's no tracking what you're doing, where with a blockchain, all of your transactions are recorded in the public ledger. And that's how they're able to figure out who owns the money, is by looking at these transactions. So CloudCoin totally rewrites everything and turns everything upside down.
And you also, you just used that word blockchain, but you came up with something, RAIDA. That's
the RAIDA.
Yeah. Tell us about that, because that's supposed to make CloudCoin a better choice than Bitcoin because of this, right?
That's right. And so the blockchain is a database, and it tracks money or Bitcoins, and it tracks who their owner is, and it tracks how they change hands. And it's a chain in that one transaction after another transaction, and they grow and grow and grow. And now there's something like 65 gigabytes of transactions in this blockchain. It grows every day. With Ethereum, it's more like a terabyte. It's huge, and it's a lot of data, and it's getting to the point where you can't even fit it on a hard drive. But that's what they have to do in order to see if the transactions are real. They have to go and unencrypt it all the way back down to its source. That takes enormous amounts of electricity, enormous amounts of time. But with CloudCoin, all we have to do is check to see if the coins are real. And so what happens is that we have a CloudCoin, and it's got 25, we'll call them passwords. They're really authenticity numbers in them. But these passwords correlate with a different cloud in different parts of the world. So we have them in Russia, we have them in the United States, we have them in Taiwan and Australia and Colombia, Argentina. They're all over the place. And we only need one to work. But by having them in all different locations, we have redundancy. And then when if I've got that file, I've got all those numbers, and I want to buy something from you, I'm going to give you that file. You're going to check it to see if it's real, but whoever has the real numbers can also change them. So then you change all the numbers. Now my file is bad. It's no good anymore. And now you are the owner of the CloudCoin. So whoever knows the numbers is the owner. And instead of having to go to this blockchain, we have the RAIDA, which is a distributed no-share database, and it can change within seconds. It doesn't require any heavy encryption or anything. And we believe that it can handle the entire world's traffic. We were just testing a RAIDA today that was doing 50,000 transactions, and that's almost twice the amount that Visa handles every day. So we think it's going to be able to handle the global currency at 1/10,000th of the electricity required by cryptocurrencies. It's just going to be the best thing ever. So we expect.
And you also have said that actually PayPal is a form of a money system?
Yes.
What makes it different?
So the PayPal is a ledger system, but it's a private ledger. And so they have, the PayPal company owns all of the servers, and they track everybody's name and account number, and they track how much money that everybody has. And so if you'd want to go in there and hack in there and make it so that you've got a lot of money, if you could do that. And I'm sure that that probably happens. They don't tell people about it, but it's a public ledger, and it does not use the blockchain, but it just uses a ledger that is, that is secure by their administrators. So, but it's the same thing. And it's very successful, by the way. The PayPal has transformed the world.
And that's what you're hoping to do as well.
Absolutely. And so the difference between PayPal and CloudCoin is that PayPal does not have any kind of central ownership. And so one of the things that the people at PayPal could go and look at your transactions and see what you're buying and selling. And they could stop things, and they could reverse things, and they could hold your money. But with CloudCoin, nobody knows what you're doing. There's no way, it's all private. Not even the people that run the servers know what you're doing. There's no logins, there's no usernames, there's no signups. And so, and it's got something called data supremacy, which means that even if I wanted to go and shut it down, I couldn't. Even if a government wanted to nuke it out of existence by dropping bombs, they couldn't do it. It is like the blockchain. It can't be shut down. It's a rare type of database.
So basically, you're telling me you are an inventor.
That's right. I am an inventor, yes. And I've got patents and, books and things like that.
Okay, so once you got your patent, how did you establish a base to send off this magnitude of information to create money?
Well, we started by doing experiments, and I personally contacted system administrators from all over the world and recruited them into the project and sold them on the idea and got them to try it out. And they did. And we've just been evolving from there, adding software. And now we've got a new company that's called RAIDA Tech, and it's designed to take the same technology, but instead of using it to detect the counterfeitability of coins, we're probably going to use it, of digital money. We can actually use it to detect like Federal Reserve notes or coins or MasterCard. We can also use it to detect the counterfeit, whether a purse is counterfeit or shoes are counterfeit. And so we're going to get into the counterfeit business, and we're going to the Counterfeit Expo next month. And hopefully we'll find some customers, but it's a technology that's very useful.
So you said you have administrators in 20 countries. What do you mean by that?
And I think it's more now. I haven't counted it for a while. But basically, we have, imagine that you went to a bar and you wanted to buy a drink, and the barman asked you for your ID, and you pulled out your wallet and you had a driver's license from 50 different states. And they could actually check every state to make sure you're real. And if for some reason some state was blown up by a nuclear bomb, unlikely, but they could then depend on the other ones for a good. And so we've got the same type of thing. We've got a different authentication number that's with a different cloud that's in a different government jurisdiction, so that it's really just impossible for them to bring it down. And now we're going from 25 servers to 800 servers, and that makes it even harder for anybody to bring down the system.
Well, then one thing too, you also mentioned that if people don't understand CloudCoin, they can really get upset. Like those people who thought that they could invest and didn't realize, was that in, where was they, in California? Where they thought that they could take the coins and invest them, and then when they found out they couldn't. You remember when you was talking about that?
Yes, we've had some issues, and because I know very little about investments, we did things completely different. So usually when they come out with these new coins, they do something called a initial coin offering, and they sell all the coins off to begin with. And they sell them for dollars, and they sell them for Ethereum and different things. But I thought, why would we want to sell our coins when they're better than everything else, number one? And number two, we should spend them into existence, not just trade them for other money. And so that's what we've been doing. We've been spending them into existence, paying system administrators, paying programmers, paying other folks to make all the software, to make the whole system work. And it's getting better and better. And in fact, I think that within a month, we're going to be very solid so that we can really go out and market and be proud of the way it works and how well it works. And everybody's going to be very, very happy with it.
So you're saying you have actual physical coins?
So a coin is I would call it a coin, a storage medium. And if you have a coin, like if I had an ounce of silver that was shaped like a coin, that would not be $1. But once I put a number on it and a dollar sign, then it becomes a dollar, a counterfeit dollar in that case. And so the money is really the data, and the coins are just where we store them. And so we can put a CloudCoin anywhere. We could put it onto a coin, which in order to do that, we would have to stick something called an NFC tag. That's a near field communication tag on it, which allows us to take a cell phone and we can take the coin and we can read and write from that. Or we could put that same sticker on a dollar bill or anything. And so we can write coins to anything. We could also print it out, or we could put it on a QR code, which is, a paper visualization of data. Or we could put it on a hard drive, or we could put it on a USB drive, or we can even put it in our minds if we can remember the codes. And so we can actually store cloud coins in our minds, which makes it extraordinary we already test it in Venezuela. In Venezuela, they get their cell phones stolen all the time. So they can actually put their coins in their mind, go for a walk, give somebody the numbers, and they can take ownership of those coins.
So, okay. Now you have your coins.
Mm-hmm.
What are they for?
So the coins are to track who's created what value. And so if you have coins, that is your proof to other people that you did something that's worth something. And so you never want to have a monetary system in which somebody shows up with all this money and they haven't earned it, because that is, like hacking. And so if you want to get a coin, you have to do some work, create some value, and then you get the coin. Does that make sense? So the coin is an accounting system.
But it's not a physical system, it's an invisible system.
Well, the one thing that's interesting is that all data takes up space. So we have to write data to a hard drive or USB drive or to a coin or to a paper or in our mind. So it all does take up space, and it all is so it is physical in a sense, but it's also, we can transmit it over, and so it's complicated.
Well, what I'm trying to understand is, okay, I have bought maybe 100 coins.
Uh-huh.
So can I go shopping?
You will very soon. And so we've got xyzbuys.com, which we've been just waiting for this one little service to work. And it looks like we might have it going by tomorrow. And that means that you can go to xyzbuys.com and you can take your cloud coins and you can put stuff in your shopping cart and you can check out and pay with cloud coins. And so that's part of why we're not marketing hard, because everybody's going to ask questions like that. And we don't want to say, we got to wait until next week. We'll want to say, just go to that website right now and be able to use that. And so that's coming very quick.
So what is the advantage of accumulating them now?
So digital currencies generally, at least if they're done right, like CloudCoin, they are going to be a hedge against inflationary currencies. So for example, the United States dollar is being printed up all the time. And unfortunately, when they print it up for loans, and that puts it in the hands of the banks. And the banks then go and loan, usually on houses, although sometimes they do it with credit cards and things like that. And that causes bubbles to form in like the housing market. And it causes a lot of irrational behavior, because people see the prices going up and they think, oh, we got to invest in that, or we got to do that, or whatever. And they don't understand that actually it's just the monetary system not working right. So I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, I get that. And then I kind of understand the need of a new modern money
Well,
system.
and the thing is that was just scratching the surface of why you need. What happens is that every country in the world has borders, and these borders have their own laws within. And so suppose that I want to buy something from, let's just pick a country out of random, like Peru, right? I want to buy something from Peru. There's a guy in Peru that wants to sell that to me. I'm talking to him over Zoom, and we agree on the price. Well, there might be all of these laws and restrictions and taxes and tariffs and all this stuff that I have no idea about. He has no idea about, not to mention the United States laws that go into that. And it could be that we're doing something perfectly good and right. Like, for example, suppose that I want to buy a Hawaiian t-shirt from him, and he makes really good Hawaiian t-shirts, but it just so happens that there's some law against that fabric and there's some law against the pattern, who knows? And so there's all this bureaucracy, all of these tariffs, all these taxes. And then if I want to buy from him using another system besides digital currency, like I won't use PayPal because it's a good system, but suppose I wanted to send him a check, or I wanted to wire him money through the banking system, well, that's going to be very expensive. That's going to cost me like $50. Going through Western Union is going to be very expensive. And so there's all the bank fees involved with it as well. And of course, PayPal has fees as well. There's no fees with CloudCoin. The system is so efficient, we don't have to charge fees. And so what that means is that you can buy things all over the world day and night with no bank fees, no taxes, no tariffs, no bureaucracy, no wait. It frees up everybody's ability to trade globally. And they don't have to come here to trade with us. We don't have to go there to trade with them. Everybody can stay in their country, and but we can do business. And it kind of takes away the power of stupid governments to mess everything up. And we can just go around all that, stupidity.
And see, that's what I was thinking about. I remember when you had shared about back in 1990s when, I think that was what I was talking about in California.
The e-gold?
Yeah.
Yeah, so in California, we had e-gold, and that was one of the first digital currencies. Everybody took their gold, put it in a vault, and they were issued digital certificates, and they traded them for billions of dollars. And then the state of California broke down the door, took the vault, shut down the whole system. And this was just some bureaucracy within California, and put everybody out of business and ruined the trade and really hurt the economy. And that showed that system did not have what's called physical integrity. So you've got to have a system that's got data supremacy, that's got physical integrity, can handle governments trying to shut it down, handle bureaucracies. But that kind of system actually was really good for the economy. And the state of California now did a 180-degree turn. Now they actually passed a law that says people can create currencies all they want, and they're not going to try to crack down on that. They were cracking down on Bitcoin miners for a while. That was a lost cause. They gave up on that. But so they're now they're seeing it as a way of making money. That there's lots of companies like Amazon.com and McDonald's and all these companies that want to do their own coin, and they don't want to destroy that business. So now they're changing their tune.
So they could actually do payroll with CloudCoins?
Absolutely. And so one of the features of money is what's called liquidity. And you want your money to have as much liquidity as possible. And that means that I can take that coin and I can change it into a hamburger, or I can change it into $1, or I can change it into any item that I want to buy. And the US dollar, is very liquid. And so it allows, I can go to Russia with a $100 note and buy something. I can go to most countries with a $100 note and be able to buy something. And CloudCoin is in the process of doing the same thing through exchanges. And we believe that digital currency is going to be much more liquid, because if I go to buy something from you and we don't have the right thing, well, we can go to some server somewhere and make a change within seconds, and then everything's going to work. So like, for example, suppose that I wanted to buy something from you and you lived in Japan and you wanted yen. You didn't want dollars. Well, how am I going to get yen to you? I'm going to have to go to the airport and trade money for that and then mail it to you or something. it's going to be hard. So, but with CloudCoin or with digital money in general, we're going to be able to quickly exchange one for another, and it's going to be really liquid, I think, and everybody's going to like that a lot.
And you know, when you think about it, you know, it's like being at the government's mercy is not a good place to be today.
No, and especially when the governments start doing stupid things like they did in Cyprus. In Cyprus, the government was broke, and they decided just to go into everybody's bank, literally, and take 10% of all their money. They just went to every single account and took money out of it in the entire country. And, you know, who wants to have that done? And of course, countries like Venezuela print up the money, they cause inflation, it's not worth anything. Same thing with America. America's very smart, and they try not to create huge amounts of inflation, but there's that potential. And I do believe that we have printed up too much dollars, and there's lots of dollars in other countries. And if those people ever want to bring it back home, it's going to cause some big problems. It's going to cause some major inflation. We're already seeing some of that, where the Chinese are coming over here and buying houses. And so we're seeing a lot of that already.
So you have Bitcoins going and CloudCoins going. How do people know where they should go to if they're trying to get out of the, you know, the government money system?
Well, you know, so people are going to try them, and I think they're going to form different opinions of them. So for example, somebody had their Bitcoin stolen, and they had lots of Bitcoins, like hundreds of thousands of dollars of Bitcoin stolen from them. And that was the last time they ever used Bitcoin, but they came to CloudCoin. In fact, that's how we got xyzbuys.com, is because they saw overstock.com making a lot of money, not on selling the products, but just accepting the Bitcoin because it goes up in value. And so they're actually getting rich just by taking Bitcoin, because the Bitcoin is going up in value. With the XYZ buys, I think it's going to be the same thing. They think it's going to be the same thing. But the owner, he had a relative that lost their private key or got it stolen, and they lost all their money. And who wants to go through that? So, you know, CloudCoin offers safety against that. Other people, they've been using Bitcoin, and all of a sudden the transaction time goes to 20 hours. Or 2 days, because so many people are trying to use it. Then that makes you never want to use it again. And so you switch to other things. And so there's a whole bunch of what I call bottlenecks. It's kind of like a pipe, and you want the more people that go through the pipe, the better, but you got these bottlenecks. And the bottleneck might be the speed, or that they're being lost, or they're, you know, lots of different factors that I've actually, you know, written down. But with CloudCoin, we open up all of those. We try to open them up wide open, so that we aren't going to slow down once we have millions and millions of people using it at one time, that we're able to protect against theft, protect against loss, and become the perfect currency, so that once you try it, hopefully you're going to like it, and you're not going to want to do anything else. You're not going to want to use any other currency.
And you said that you have created the perfect money system.
So we have created a model of what perfect money is, and it's based on our models of databases and what's called normalized databases, or normal database, or how databases should be. And I think it's the most perfect that we have today. It's a lot better than everything else, and there might be some slight improvements that some currencies might be able to make, but I don't think they're going to be able to make anything big enough to justify creating a whole new currency. I think that CloudCoin is going to dominate.
And share with us some of the things that make it perfect.
So there's three general things that you want in a currency. The first thing is called, well, we use the initial CIA. So the first thing is C, confidentiality. That means you don't want everybody knowing what you're doing. If I try to go and buy and sell things and everybody can watch what I'm doing, I might change my behavior. They might change their behavior. It's not going to work. The second thing is I, the CIA. The I is integrity. And when we get into integrity in computer science, we have PhD stuff about that, right? You've got data integrity, you've got something called physical integrity and logical integrity, and then preferential integrity. And then each one of those breaks into subcategories. So for with logical integrity, we've got something called entity integrity, we've got something called domain integrity, we've got something called relational integrity. And this is the kind of stuff that makes it possible for me to be able to create a monetary system where economists can't, because they've never heard of these database rules. And so that's the eye of that. The last thing is availability. And that means that anytime that you want to use it, it's got to be there for you. And so
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say that when it comes to confidentiality, no user accounts, no signups, no tracks, no transactions being tracked. It's 100% private, the most private currency ever created. So we got the best confidentiality ever. As far as integrity goes, the same thing. We've got what we think are the best integrity going. We don't depend on something called consensus, where you try to figure out what's true based on the popular opinion, where with CloudCoin, you just have to trust one RAIDA, and that's good enough. And so we don't vote to see who's got what money. And then, of course, availability, we think we've got this data structure, the RAIDA. It's based on the DNS system. The DNS system has not gone down since 1985. Our system's never gone down either. We don't expect it to ever go down. And so that, again, gives us those three things. We're just going to dominate, we believe.
Well, so before you came up with CloudCoin, how did you come up with that name anyway?
Well, we were looking at a whole bunch of names, and I thought that that was good because that's where it gets its integrity. It gets integrity from having redundant computers all over the world, and that's basically cloud technology.
Right. And did you study Bitcoin, or did you?
So I studied it, yeah. I didn't go into all of the details of the code, but I realized that it was a database, and I had to really study it to figure out what made it special. Why is everybody so whacked out about blockchain? Why do people think blockchain is so special? What makes it so revolutionary? And what I figured out is that the blockchain has no owner. So that's something unique. Most databases have an owner. They are owned by a company, like Facebook has all their databases, and the government has its databases, and I've got databases. But it doesn't have an owner, and I call that a super base, which means it's not owned by individuals, it's owned by the human super organism. And so that is something that emerges, I believe, out of the economy and out of money. But it's a unique thing that the database has. And another unique thing is that it has data supremacy, which means that it is more powerful than everything else. The only way that it could be taken down is voluntarily, but it could not be taken down involuntarily.
And I was trying to comprehend how you said, even if you left this world today, you said CloudCoin will always exist.
Yes. And that's very interesting because human societies have not had these kind of databases before. But if you go back to like the island of Yap, you've got these stone mounds and you've got this big stones. If you want to get rid of that system, you have to do a lot of work. You're going to have to go roll the stones in the ocean or whatever and destroy all the mounds. It's going to take a great deal. And so that system is still working today. But we can actually take RAIDA and we can put them into space. We can put them on ships. We can hide them all over the place. And so we think that we can create a system that is self-funding and hopefully will never die. It'll be a global monetary system that'll be fair and just and equal and allow us human beings to coordinate our activities in the most efficient manner that really makes us all prosperous.
So it does not belong to you?
No. And so if it belonged to me, then we would have a central point of failure and we would have systemic risk. And so the RAIDA technology was given to the CloudCoin consortium, and they have the ability to use that for the CloudCoin. And but all of the RAIDA administrators all have their own businesses. They all get paid separately, and they all have. And even they are splitting up now into 32, and so we're probably going to see 800 servers in the next year or so.
So you don't feel like that's your baby?
I certainly feel that that is my baby, and I believe I have a lot of influence over things. But when I created the concept, I knew that this was going to be very disruptive because, number one, our government, along with our banking system in the United States, created the Federal Reserve basically to allow themselves to hack it. Banks don't usually have the right to print up money. That's done by the government. Governments don't have the right to just borrow money from anybody that they want to. And so what they did is they made a deal that the banks would allow the government to borrow all they want, and the government would allow the banks to print up all the money that they want. And this allows them to hack the system, both of them, and extract value from it that they should not have. So the government basically can tax people all over the world that use dollars, not just Americans, by inflation, and the banks can make extra profits by getting a really good deal on money. They get it for free, basically. There's a prime rate that it's set, but it's not a market-driven price, and all they're trying to do is make sure things don't blow up and there's not inflation. Things still blow up. They just blow up on a sector-by-sector scale. New technology is what usually blows up.
But I was thinking about when I had mentioned earlier, a lot of people are in fear that the government is trying to reconstruct a system where we are powerless people.
Yes. And so digital currencies will allow that. And so, it's possible that we could have a digital currency, what I call blockchain socialism. This is where everybody's forced to get an account on the blockchain. They know how much money you have. They know who you buy and sell with. You've got algorithms that just take money out of your account and give it to somebody else. And they could do that on a global scale. I believe that the nation of China is trying to do that right now. They're creating a monetary system basically based on Alibaba, which means that it's very liquid. And so if what the government could do, the government of China could do, is they could figure out how to tax Americans and people all over the world with this currency. And it's the same thing with Venezuela. They've created this petro coin, which is just a way for them to steal from people. So don't buy that. And I think those systems are going to collapse, but they all depend on force. They might try to trick you to get involved with it, but ultimately they're going to try to force you to use it. And what we need is a currency that's competitive with that. It's an alternative, and it's going to be a way. But I know that banks, we're not going to need banks anymore. We're not going to need, the governments are going to get screwed. They're not going to be able to control the monetary systems anymore. They're going to get just screwed. So that people are going to be out to kill me. They're going to have real.
I was headed in that direction. I was like, have people approached you? He's the one that made that money.
And so what I've done is I have to set it up so that if I die, it doesn't matter. They don't achieve anything. And I have to also set it up so that if I do die, it doesn't matter. And I certainly, first thing I did was I bought a lot of life insurance, a lot more life insurance. And because I do think that this is going to be disruptive, and it's going to disrupt some very evil people.
And we are in those times where we need some kind of hope. Yeah,
and I do think that I think that we're going to figure things out and solve things before the evil people do. That's my hope. And that right now we're getting ready to have the system that really works well, because it's a digital system. It should work perfectly, but we've had bugs in code and people lose their money and they get all mad, but I think that we're getting all of those bugs ironed out, and the software is getting really good. We're going to be able to bring it into video games and just everywhere. And so I think it's getting ready to go mainstream here. It's going to explode. I think once it gets out, once people start hearing about it, I think they're going to really be amazed. And and that's coming. And I think we're going to beat the evil people before they figure out that they can use the currency to control us.
This is what they're doing already, trying to anyway.
Absolutely. And, you know, there's other reasons why they might want to go to digital currency, including the fact that they spend $800 million printing up money every year, at least in America.
Wow.
But it does give them the ability to track everything and monitor everything. And that is not one of the features you want in your monetary system. You do not want the government to know everything you're doing.
You had also mentioned something about prescriptions that.
Yes.
What do you mean that we'll be able to get them without a prescription?
So right now, we could, like for right now, I could go online and I could buy some drugs from India or something, and they would ship them in a container that doesn't have any mention of being drugs. When I get those drugs, I don't know if those drugs are real or not. And so our technology not only works in digital currency, but it could work in pills as well. And we could do it different ways. We could make it so that the container has counterfeit detection systems on it. And so long as the container isn't broken open, then you can trust the container. But what we could also do, and this might sound kind of scary to people, but there's these chips that you embed in dogs.
Yeah.
And they're about the size of a grain of rice, and they inject them in there. But we could, you know, assuming that chip could pass through your entire system, we could like embed that into a pill, and you could actually know if the pill is real or not, so long as it's not broke open. And we actually want to work on nano chips that you could swallow easily. They're very small, and they would just go right through your system. And so that's our hope. And that way, we could get around the government restrictions, because we have some just craziness going on with pharmaceuticals. The pharmaceuticals companies sell to India at one price, and they sell to us at another price. And the price that they sell to us is like 100 times more than in India. So what we should have is arbitrage. That means they sell it cheap to the Indians. The Indians sell it for a little bit more to us, but it's a lot cheaper than we would get it. But the problem is we just don't know if it's counterfeit or not. And so a system like this would put an end to that, and that the pharmaceutical companies could then use the technology, and then we know that when it comes back, it is actually real.
So you are drawing a lot of people to it?
So we are just getting ready. We're doing the research on this type of technology, and we're going to the Anti-Counterfeiting and Currency Expo in November, in a couple of months, and we're going to see if there's any interest in our technology there. Hopefully there is. Hopefully a lot of interest. So we are getting that stuff going, and that stuff helps CloudCoin, because what it does is it brings in revenue to our company called RAIDA, which is a corporation that does anti-counterfeiting. And then the RAIDA can help CloudCoin by giving it resources and everything, and by sharing the same technologies. So we're hoping that, what's interesting is that we haven't raised any money for CloudCoin. CloudCoin has spent itself into existence, and we've never done anything called an ICO. And so it's really unusual.
What do you mean it spent itself into existence?
So we started by creating all the money, which is all the cloud coins. And then we created the database around it, which is the RAIDA. We distributed it all over the world. And then we started hiring the system administrators to run the servers, and they worked for CloudCoin. And we hired the programmers to work for CloudCoins. And then we brought in other things like quality assurance testers and logo designers and marketers. And now we're starting to expand. But basically, the currency has not gone the traditional route where they just sell it into existence. So we've got a 5-year spending plan. We're into a 1.5 years right now, but we're going to continue spending CloudCoin into existence. And then once it's all spent, then it'll be out there.
Wow. And your book, Beyond Bitcoins, what do you want people to walk away with about that book?
Well, that book has a lot of different things in it. It's got, theories about what perfect money are. It's got a technology about how to create data structures that are dominant. But it also talks about the future, the bright future that's possible, and also this blockchain socialism and the terrible things that can happen if that happens. And so I think, I hope it gives people kind of a game plan for the future. And I hope that it will get them involved with digital currencies, whether it's cryptocurrencies or CloudCoin, because I really think that this is the future. And the sooner you learn about it, the better off you're going to be. You're not going to want to be in the dark ages dealing with the paper money. You're going to want to be in the future knowing what's happening and be able to take care of the opportunities. I think it's going to give everybody an advantage over their competition by having digital money.
Wow. So if people wanted to purchase your book or get in touch with you, how do they go about doing that, even if they wanted to purchase some coins?
Well, they can, if they just want to learn about it, a good way to do that is to go to digitalfrontiernews.com, and they actually give my book away for free and 5 free CloudCoins so you can play with it. And basically you might say, well, if they're giving away free CloudCoins, it's not worth much. And it certainly is not worth much, but that's kind of like paying people to learn about it. And I think it's worth it. They just have to sign up for the newsletter.
Wow. And you know what?
What?
You are on the Truth Will Set You Free show. Give us a truth to remember you by.
Money is data. And by the way, data is truth as well.
Wow. I really appreciate you coming on our show today, Kenneth.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me.
And you're welcome to come back anytime.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.